Tell me you felt it too, the way the city's noise dipped for half a second, like LA inhaled all at once and held it. Why are the practice gym lights feeling brighter than they should? Why does every little clip from scrimmage look half a step faster, half a beat sharper, like somebody in the building already decided a couple of careers before a single preseason tip? Ask yourself this: what if the difference between a fun season and a dangerous one isn't a blockbuster name, but a camp decision that snaps our identity into place minutes carved for a wing who plays through contact, a guard who turns defense into oxygen, a rotation that finally buys LeBron and our primary handler clean possessions when the floor shrinks? If you could steal 8 better possessions a night without sacrificing tomorrow, would you do it? Would you do it now? Here's my promise without ruining the surprise. We're going to map the exact profile that flips those coin flip moments in April length that guards up, speed that chases over the top, a first step that makes top locks look dumb, and just enough shooting to punish disrespect. We'll talk what the staff is quietly rehearsing in camp snug pick and rolls, delay actions, split cuts disguised as pace, and how that hints at a very specific rotation choice. We'll get into locker room temperature, why the right kid on a two-way can raise a veteran room, and how to manage the touches economy so nobody's diet gets starved. We'll be adults about risk too, shot consistency, whistle variance, and the patience it takes to turn a summer skill into a spring habit. At the end, I'll stamp whether I'm in or out and the line I wouldn't cross. Quick pit stop with the family. If you ride with us through the dry spells and the parade laps, you're in the right place. You're watching Lakers News Fan Report. Hit subscribe. Drop a like so more diehards find us. And in the comments, tell me your breakout pick and the exact minutes you'd reallocate to make it real. Best cap same plan gets pinned. All right, back to the hunt. Let's start on the floor where series are decided. The half court. Late clock, nothing pretty brewing. Last year, our best stretches were ruthless in tempo and organization, early drag screens before the defense could load, wide pin downs into quick slips, two-man games that forced a third defender to show himself and pay taxes. But when opponents sat on our pet read stop locking the shooter, sitting under DHO, switching late to steal the angle, we too often needed a hero touch to bail out a possession. That's not sustainable playoff math. What is sustainable is inevitability. A rotation that keeps a pressure valve on the weak side, a downhill threat who wins the first step before the help is set, and a defender who turns makes into set defense and misses into runouts without us having to change who we are. Training camp is where inevitability gets built. You can already see the breadcrumbs in the practice clips and the drill sheets. More condensed spacing into burst cuts. More snug PNR at the elbows, making guards scream big so switching costs something. More delay action with the 5 at the top, holding the ball high while wings braid around him. More ghost screens at 23 feet, where a defender either switches a bad matchup or concedes a window. That menu doesn't get rehearsed for cardio. It's a language lesson for a roster that expects to plug in specific skill sets. The question is which young pieces can speak that language at speed and who can be trusted when everything tightens dock. So let's set the players on the chessboard. There's the connective big who can hand off at the elbow and re-screen without fouling. There's the primary who bends the floor by simply crossing half court with the ball. There's the bruising wing who can punish smalls on a switch and hold his own on the other end. Those are anchors. But the swing minutes, the ones that wobble, live in the second and third unit wings, and the guard who can change the tempo without changing the playbook. That's where camp becomes consequential. Here's the part you've been waiting for. Let's name the idea cleanly. The news, if you want to call it that, is direction. The staff is leaning towards starting camp with a real runway for a defense-first guard on a two-way and a long wing who can live in the 3 and D lane without being boxed there, with a path for one of them to seize 6-man type minutes faster than anyone outside the room expects. The names you keep hearing around the gym are Chris Manning and Adu, Theo for the defensive chaos, and Jake Laravia for the two-way wing minutes that steady a second unit. That is not a coordination. It's an opportunity. And it's exactly the kind of opportunity that can flip a season's shape if someone actually grabs. It is that fact or speculation. It's speculation grounded in how the staff is drilling, the way the scrimmage lineups are being staged, and the roles that make the most basketball sense with the pieces we have. No trophies for guessing. Just context for what to watch as camp ramps. Now let's break down why each of these guys fits the problem we're trying to solve, and how you build a rotation around their strengths without punching holes somewhere else. Start with Chris Manning, the two-way guard who plays like an alarm bell. The numbers that jump off the amateur tape weren't about usage. They were about event steal rates and block rates that don't make sense on a 6'5" guard unless the motor is relentless and the timing is real. In a camp setting where veterans are optimizing reps and coaches are hammering terminology, that kind of chaos can be a feature. Put him on the ball against the first unit for 3 possessions. Ask him to chase over the top, get into the handle, and make the offense restart their action with 8 on the clock. That's buy-a-stop basketball. Offensively, you don't pretend he's a primary. You turn him into a mover who screens, slips, and cuts the nail hit a couple open threes across a week. And now a coach sees a pathway for 6 to 8 real minutes that can extend on nights when the game breaks into a track meet. The risks are honest. The shot has to be respected enough that he doesn't get ignored in the corner, and the foul discipline has to show up immediately. But the lane is there. On a team that needs energy that translates to points, Manning can change the weather. Adieu. Theo sits in a similar but bigger frame. A wing with defensive versatility you can feel before the ball is even thrown in. The tape isn't shy. He navigates screens, he tags and recovers. He gets a finger on the pass you didn't think was reachable. Where he can win a job quickly is in the dirty work we actually reward column, sprinting the lane to widen shells, crashing the glass on the weak side to steal 1 possession per stint, and cutting behind a ball-watching defender the second our DHO sets a trap. The shot is the swing skill. If he flirts with average on corner volume in camp and preseason, you have to consider his defense as rotation glue. If not, you keep him in situations where his man can't just abandon him. Set him as a screener, park him in the dunker spot against particular lineups, and let him punish ball watching with cuts. And then there's Jake Laravia, the one who could change the math quickest if the shot holds. Label him 3-and-D if you want, just don't stop there. At his best last season, he was more like 3-and-D and do a little everything. He guards bigger wings without giving ground. He screens with purpose and rolls just enough to make a tag matter. He can put it on the deck for 1 or 2 dribbles and finish a possession without needing to dominate it. Put him in second unit minutes next to a DHO hub and a primary who draws 2, and watch how clean the game gets. The risk with Jake is durability and repetition. Can he keep the volume up and the percentage steady now that scouting reports will actually treat him like a threat? Can he defend without fouling when the whistle tightens? Camp won't answer it all, but it can force the staff to see him as something bigger than a placeholder. If he looks like a 37 to 39% on real volume guy across October, the 6-man conversation becomes real fast. Okay, zoom out. How do you actually integrate these pieces without destabilizing what already works? You build 3 looks and keep them on rails. Look 1 is the oxygen group primary, shooter, wing, connector big, and an athlete who sprints the lane. This is where a Manning cameo makes sense. 7 frantic minutes that flip a quarter. Look 2 is the stability group primary, Laravia, second connector, and a rolling 5. Here you span delay into Chicago, invert a couple actions so your shooter screens and your wing catches on the move, and punish any team that tries to defend you with size only. Look 3 is the closing group whatever 5, gives you 2 shooting threats, 2 defenders you trust to switch, and the big who communicates. On a hot night, you tilt offense. On a rock fight, you tilt defense. The point is choice. The more playable two-way wings you have, the less you're forced to close with a compromise. Let's get tactical for a second so you can watch for it in preseason. In empty corner PNR, if the tagger is living in early help, the counter isn't a hero 3. It's a cut from the 45 by your weak side wing, forcing a peel switch that creates a layup or a bump foul. That's a do Theo land. In Spain action, pick and roll with a back screen on the big. If the defense tries to top lock the back screener, you flip the screen at the last second, and the pop becomes a clean catch and shoot. That's where Laravia's footwork matters. In pistol dribble handoff into a quick screen if teams start ducking under, you reposition the handoff one step lower so the rescreen turns into a foul line jumper. That's where a Manon or any guard with pace can make a coach nod. If you see these counters clean in preseason, it's your tell that the staff trusts these guys to make decisions at speed. Now, the touches economy, always the adult conversation. Everybody in October feels like the best version of themselves. In January, the diet gets real. Can you feed a 6-man and a chaos guard without starving your primary or the big who needs paint touches to defend with edge? You can if you tie minutes to jobs, not names. If Mannon's minutes are explicitly create events, stay off the ball on offense, screen, slip, and crash, he doesn't need usage to matter. If Laravia's minutes are take the open 3 every time, set 2 great screens per possession, be the low man on defense, he's plugged into the power strip of the system, not fighting it. That's how you keep the room healthy, work rewarded, roles defined, credit shared. The money and the math are the easy part here because we're not talking blockbusters. We're talking internal promotions. The real cost is opportunity. Which vet's minutes do you clip to give a kid with energy a real lane? The honest answer is you trim from nights, not from careers. If a vet doesn't have the legs in a 3-and-5 stretch, that's a Manon night. If a wing isn't closing on shooters or the shot looks heavy, that's a Laravia night. You can defend that in film and in the room if it's consistent and the clips are right. Risks exist. The shot variance could spook a staff and push them towards safer, lower upside lineups. The foul whistle in preseason can be chaotic and make an aggressive defender look worse than he is. A couple early turnovers from trying to play on the front foot can make fans impatient. That's where coaching temperature matters. If the staff is clear, this is who you are, this is what buys you more minutes. This is what costs you minutes players can live with a cold week. What they can't live with is guessing. Timeline? There are 2 smart paths. 1. Decide early, bake roles by the end of camp, and build reps that compound into December. 2. Let preseason breathe. Play lineup science through the first 10, then lock over the next 10. The wrong path is pretending the decision doesn't matter until Valentine's Day. Camp is where identity shifts are cheap. March is where they're expensive. So where do I land? Here's the stamp. I'm in on giving Chris Manon a real lane out of camp 6 to 8 minutes with permission to cause havoc provided the corner 3 looks like a shot, not a prayer, and the foul discipline shows up twice as often as the gamble. I'm in on giving Edu Theo a rotation audition with a short leash on spacing. If he's at league average corner volume and showing real tagging discipline, he earns minutes on defense alone. And I'm fully in on Jake Laravia as the early favorite to become the 6-man if the shot holds across camp volume, because a 2-way wing who screens with violence and shoots with courage is exactly how you make fourth quarters shorter. My walkaway? If the shot dessert shows up for 2 straight weeks for any of them, you don't marry a plan you dated. You pivot without apology and you ride the lineups that keep the graph pointing up. Before we close, imagine a random Tuesday in January. Tie game, 4:11 left, nothing cute on the first action. We flow into delay. The 5 holds high, Laravia pins, slips, and pops. The nail steps in. The pass is on time. The net snaps. Next trip, they overplay the pop. Manning goes into the lane, draws a second, skips to the corner, splash. That's 2 possessions, 5 points, and the building gets quiet. That's the margin you buy in camp. Not fireworks. Not posters. Control. The news finally. Clean and simple. The staff is preparing to give a real early runway to a defense-first guard and a long 3-and-D wing, with Jake Laravia positioned to seize six-man minutes if his shot and discipline show in camp. It's not official. It's the direction that makes the most basketball sense with what we're seeing and hearing. If it locks in, roles crystallize by Halloween. If it doesn't, the pivot is painless, and we keep stacking small edges until a big one appears. My opinion. Stamp before we get out of here. Do it. Be bold, not reckless. Reward the habits that scale to spring basketball: sprinting without the ball, screening with purpose, defending without bailing out, shooting without hesitation. If these 3 kids give you that, you feed them. If 2 give you that, you feed them. If only 1 gives you that, you still feed him and trust the room to hold. The fastest way to waste a great core is to be timid in October and desperate in March. Decide, rep it, live with the learning curve, and let the math of good possessions add up. You're watching Lakers News Fan Report. Subscribe, like, and drop your breakout pick plus the minutes you reallocate to make it real. I'll pin the best plan, and we'll ride together all year. See you at practice.